Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the Shape Up Fitness podcast. In episode 1, we talked about the importance of setting realistic goals, smart goals, as well as the importance of having a strong supportive community to help keep you going. In episode 2, I want to talk about the basics of nutrition, so calorie deficits, macro counting, and some of the challenges that I personally have faced in my own journey. So let's dive into that right now. For anyone that watched episode 1, you may see that there's quite a bit of changes in the podcast itself. It looks a lot different. Hopefully it'll sound much better as well. I'm trying to change things up per episode to figure out how I can give you guys the best quality and make it visually visually appealing and sound appealing at the same time. This time, instead of having the show notes on the screen in front of me, I'm going to try and talk about my own personal experiences and education that, off the top of my head is essentially what I'm trying to say, and we'll see how that goes. Leave comments in the section below and let me know what you think of me doing it this way. So I'm going to try and reduce the ums and ahs as much as possible, but just, is what it is. Bear with me here. I'm going to also try and keep this episode a lot shorter than episode 1 because episode 1 ended up being over an hour long, and to me that's just way too long for a one-person show. So let's dive right into the basics of nutrition. One thing that I find to be the most important, and I'm sure a lot of you already watch other forms of social media like TikTok and other YouTube videos, YouTube shorts. One of the most important things when it comes to building and losing weight is your calorie intake. Calories in versus calories out. It's basic thermodynamics. It can actually be broken down to be that simple. But there's other things to consider. When it comes to nutrition, it's not just, for most of us, it's not just I'm gonna start. I'm just gonna throw all the snacks and treats in the house away, and I'm gonna just go 100% in. Very few people can actually do that. Now, I mentioned Jimmy Brennan, my buddy Jimmy, in episode 1, and I'm gonna mention him again now. He has a next level of self-discipline, and he's pretty good at making up his mind and sticking with it. Not everybody can do that. So I'm one of those people. I found before I became a fitness trainer and really dived into this type of lifestyle, I found that if I didn't get it 100% right out of the way, I would just kind of give up. If I had a bad day, it's like, well, I had one bad day, we'll just start again next week. That's a really poor mindset to have. I recognize that it wasn't my best time when it comes to health and fitness, and it's easy to overload yourself with those types of excuses. But it's a learning process. You need to take time and recognize the things that you struggled with, and instead of giving up, try to find ways to overcome those things. So for one, meal prep is a big one. Okay, meal prepping is a big factor in whether or not you're going to make it through the whole week. Because if you don't meal prep, I find that when life gets busy, especially for you parents out there, when life gets busy, it's easy to be out in town and be like, and just tell yourself, well, we don't have time to make food, so we might as well just pick something up. Or if it's late in the evening and you got the kids with you got to get home, and you're like, well, by the time we get home, we have to cook, and so instead of spending all that time cooking, we could just pick some fast food up on the way home, and then dinner's done. It'll save us a lot of time. But if you meal prep and plan your meals ahead of time, it will drastically reduce the times that you want to do that. Okay? So keep that in mind. Meal prep is a huge one, and there's a lot of different methods of meal prep. And I've tried a few of them. One method is actually, instead of making solid meals, like 100% the meal is ready to go, you can bulk cook ingredients. So instead of making a chicken stir fry, you can bulk cook rice and have chicken cooked or ground beef cooked, so have a bunch of options or not, maybe not even a bunch, because meat and stuff is only really good in the fridge for so long. So don't make too much. We don't want to waste food. We don't want to throw it out, because food is getting more and more expensive as the days go on. So try and pick, especially for starters, let's say you try and pick one source of protein, one source of carbs. Fats are generally included in your meats and condiments. That tends to be the way it goes. In toppings, like, if you do like some sort of cheese topping or something, that has a lot of fats in it as well. But carbs and meats, we'll actually steam vegetables for a couple of days, and like a couple days worth of steamed veggies. And then you could even have just a bowl or a big Tupperware container cooked of ground beef or chicken or some sort of meat. And then you could have even a bunch of rice pre-cooked as well, or potatoes are a really good one too. And then that way, for the next few days, you can take those already cooked ingredients and batch them together to make different things. Like you can actually make tacos or burritos at home with those types of ingredients and hit your macro count, right? I know, breads and stuff like tortillas are pretty high in carbs and stuff, and there's you have to count for that and stuff, but carbs are not the enemy, and neither is bread, unless you have some sort of gluten intolerance. Don't worry about staying away from carbs. In fact, you will need them. And in a minute here, I'll actually even talk about my own personal macro split that I recommend to anyone starting out. But before that, let's continue talking about the meal prep. So batch cooking a bunch of those ingredients so that you can make different meals throughout the week. For those, it works really well for those of you that don't like to eat the exact same thing over and over again. It gives you the opportunity to make different things, different meals, add different toppings, you can do different things with it. And I said different a lot in that little spiel, but I think you understand what I'm saying. The next way to meal prep is actually prepping full meals. Now, for my breakfast and lunches, I actually don't mind eating the same thing for breakfast and lunch. It's if I can't eat, I have a hard time eating the same thing that I had for lunch for dinner. So that's where things kind of get a little boring. I like to change it up on dinner, but for breakfast and lunch, Crystal and I have gotten it down pat. We will have a full week of breakfasts and a full week of lunches cooked, ready to go. So we just have to go to the fridge and grab them, which goes really great for when we're going to work. We go to work, we grab our lunches. I actually take my breakfast with me on the go because I wake up pretty early to go to work so I can be done sooner. And that doesn't leave me much time to eat breakfast at home, so I take my breakfast with me, but that's fine because it's already in a container. I just have to heat it up, boom, ready to go. And then we generally try to do the same thing for snacks, but our snacks consist of like fruit, like bananas, apples, and then the Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is amazing. We don't use plain Greek yogurt. I like to have flavor. It has a little bit more sugar and stuff in it because it's got the fruit and added flavors. But we get like 100 gram. We take these 100 gram packs of Greek yogurt, already flavored, ready to go. Like one little thing has 6 grams of protein in it. I eat 2 of those minimum a day. That boosts my protein up by 12 grams just in that little yogurt, right? And they're not super high in calories either. So I do that for my snacks, and then fruit for carbs and energy, as well as the micronutrients. So there's a difference between macronutrients and micronutrients. Micronutrients meaning vitamins and minerals, macronutrients meaning fats, proteins, carbs. Now I don't want to break it. I want to focus on beginner level stuff, so I'm not going to break it into the different types of like vitamins and minerals and stuff. So we're just going to keep going with what I'm talking about now, the meal prep. So that works with us. So I really recommend that when you start, try different things that work out for you. And yes, I understand it might slow your progress down a little bit, because if you do a meal prep style that doesn't work for you, then you might not hit your macros. It drives up the risk of not hitting your macros and calories, because the meal prep that you try doing doesn't suit your lifestyle. But you will never know until you try. This is adjusting your full lifestyle. So that's what I was talking about before. Don't quit when you get overwhelmed. Just because you had a bad week doesn't mean, or a bad day, doesn't mean it's over. It just means look at what happened, what didn't work for you, adjust. Okay, adapt to it. And just keep going until you find whatever type of meal prep works for you. We do not meal prep dinners, not yet at least, but we do try and plan our meals so that we can pull whatever we need out of the freezer. We find that our meals all look pretty similar, and that makes things way easier. And it makes it easier because you can just buy the same, instead of going and having a massive shopping list and a massive grocery bill, because especially here in Canada, the groceries are just skyrocketing. So try to buy the same ingredients and just cooking them different ways. That way it's not super boring. And then you can, like, for us, I like to have different things for dinner. And you can, that brings me to another point when it comes to meal prep and what you're eating. There's a lot of videos out there that, there's one that's we're not dieting for the taste, like, and then they call people lazy or names for using the excuse, well, it doesn't taste good. Well, I hate those videos. They're right. You're not dieting for the taste. I get that. And I think that what they're really trying to say is you don't need to eat all this junk food to get the taste. Sure, you already know what the junk food tastes like. That should be good enough, because junk food is super tasty. It's palatable, right? But you don't need to shy away from making your food delicious just because you add a little bit of condiments. Like, I love, like, for my lunches that I meal prep, it's mostly chicken breast with steamed vegetables and a little bit of rice. Not even very much rice, just a little bit of rice. And I won't eat it plain. I just won't. I would rather put 2 tablespoons of sweet and sour sauce and sacrifice the 70 calories that it takes to add sweet and sour sauce onto my rice and chicken and veggies. Like, why not? It doesn't make sense to suffer through. You're already sacrificing your normal, luxurious lifestyle in a lot of areas, right? You're already trying to add the exercise to your daily routine. You're already trying to wean out all of these binge eating items and these sweet treats and high density calorie foods. You're already working on getting rid of those. So don't replace those highly palatable foods with plain rice and chicken. Doesn't make sense. You're going to just make yourself work harder, and it gives you a higher chance of failure. You do not want that. Okay? Don't worry about making your food more delicious. Just because you add a little bit of good tasting condiments or sauces or sides to it doesn't take away the nutritious factor of the food that you've replaced it with. Okay? So eating healthy can taste good. You can add, like, I love sweet and sour sauce, teriyaki sauce. I love that stuff. Barbecue sauce, delicious. Okay, add it, but track it. Okay, you might be sacrificing a couple bites of rice for the carbs or something. Like, just make it taste good. Track it. Stay within your calorie count. Stay within your macro count, and voila. Make it taste good. Make it work. Otherwise, you're just gonna replace all this delicious food you've been eating for years with plain rice and chicken. Doesn't make sense, man. I hate those videos. It drives me bonkers. Doesn't make sense. Okay? Enjoy your food. Okay, I do like videos where, instead of taking things away from your diet, add healthy stuff to it. Okay, that will make a huge difference. Stop telling yourself, oh, I can't eat that. Start telling yourself, well, if I eat this, what if I add, if I'm going to eat this spaghetti or whatever, I'm choosing pasta because it's super high in carbs. I will say this though, eating pasta makes it hard to hit your calorie count. It does. Your macro count and calorie count can be thrown off by eating pasta. I'm not saying that it's the enemy or that it's bad, but man, pasta is extremely high calories. So keep that in mind. But I'm using that as an example. If you want spaghetti, make sure you add some extra lean meat and some vegetables to it. That's a good place to start. But be wary of pasta. It's a calorie killer for sure. Okay. But yeah, I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Make it tasty. Don't overdo it with all these hard-hitting bodybuilders and people who compete and high-end athletes. Okay, they're on a next level. They're willing to sacrifice those things to get the physique that they want. You don't actually have to. You don't. You can still hit your goals and have yummy food. Done. That's it. And yes, I'm not saying that you can keep eating the food that you're currently eating, because a lot of you probably eat a lot of fast food. And that's, I used to do a lot of door dashing to make money, and I would door dash to the same people breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But one fast food meal can destroy your whole day, because if you think about it, my maintenance calories at 198 pounds and 5'9" is roughly about 2,500 calories for maintenance. One fast food meal can be well over 1,500 calories. One meal, burger, fries, drink, well over 1,500 calories. So that leaves me 1,000 calories for the rest of the day. Fast food and other meals similar to that are very calorie dense, high in fat, high carbs, and very mediocre protein. So please keep that in mind. You will need to replace the food that you're currently eating, but that's the point. That's the goal. Okay. We all need to do better, and well, quite frankly, we all need to shape up. Okay. We need to really focus on changing what we're eating. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about the calorie deficits. It's basic thermodynamics. It's literally as simple as calories in versus calories out. If you burn less calories than you consume for the day, you will gain weight. If you burn more calories than you consume for the day, you will lose weight. Now, there are some exceptions. If your body is under some level of stress, it will not function the same, or probably won't function the same. I shouldn't say there's no such thing as a definite yes or no when it comes to health and fitness, because everybody's body operates differently. So I won't say it will not operate the same, but it might not. For example, if you're under a lot of stress from work, from family members, or whatever, any type of mental stress can affect your body's ability to lose/gain weight. If you are not getting good rest and recovery, that will also make it so that your body is affected, and you may have a hard time gaining/losing weight. And water intake. So rest, recovery, nutrition, it all works together. In fact, there's a part of your brain, now I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but it's called the hypothalamus, I believe. Studies have actually shown that is the part of your brain that is actually responsible for the balance between sleep, hunger, and thirst. And studies have shown that if you are low on one, the hypothalamus will actually try and fill the gaps with one of the other two. So what I mean by that is if you have bad sleep, your body will that's why like, your body might have higher cravings because it wants to consume more food to fill the gaps from the bad sleep. And same thing, if you don't have enough water, your body might want to sleep more or might want to eat more. And that's a good reason for when you see someone on a high calorie deficit, they drink lots of water, because if they're consuming less food, their brain's going to want to fill up that gap with something else. So water is a good source, and plus it makes you feel less hungry. And then sleep as well is a big one. I think if you really focused and paid attention, the days you have bad sleep will be the days you have the highest level of cravings. So keep that in mind. The point is to find a balance. Now, I know some people don't like that word balance because that's 90% of living a healthy, active, fit life is finding balance with almost everything. But that's important. That's true. That is just the hard truth. Okay. So I lost my train of thought with that one. Let's keep talking about macro splits here for a second. Let's talk about the macronutrients. Okay. So fats, proteins, carbs. I want to talk about what my split is going to be. Now, if you're just starting out, this is the split that I generally use for myself, and I recommend it to everyone just starting out. Because when you start with a certain split, if it doesn't work for you, that's when you adjust. But essentially, this is what I do, and this is what most of my programs will start with and recommend you with, is you should start by calculating your protein intake. It should be a high protein diet. And this goes for whether you're trying to build muscle or burn body fat. High protein diet is the key. And when I say high protein, I'm not talking about going on a government website and finding what they recommend for high protein. Because if you go on one of those, they say it's like 60 grams of protein is a high protein diet. It's not. That's not enough protein. It's like not even halfway. You should, for a high protein diet, aim for about 1 gram per pound of body weight. Goal body weight, not your current body weight. So if you're 198 pounds like me and your goal is 180 pounds, then you should have 180 grams of protein. Okay. After the protein has been figured out, I will take the remainder and actually not even the remainder, my total calorie intake, I will want to consume anywhere from 25 to 30% in healthy fats. So I try to go 30%, and then if it doesn't work for me, I'll adjust down. But I will add 30% of my daily caloric intake as my fats. And then whatever is left over, I will make carbs. So your carbs should theoretically be pretty close to your protein intake at that point. It just happened to work out for my particular split and weight and calorie goals that a lot of the times my protein and carbs are pretty close to the same. Right now, I'm going a little extra high in my protein, so they're not the same. But I digress. That's a split that I always recommend everybody to start with, because you have to start somewhere. And there's no perfect answer. It's never going to be perfect. So if you're just starting out, start with that. Figure out what your calories are. If you want to gain weight, you want to build muscle, you take your there's a calculation that you can do, or you can find a calorie calculator online, super easy to find. If you use MyFitnessPal or Fitbit or any app like that, they have calorie calculators built into them. You can find your caloric intake for maintenance, and you can add whatever you want if you want to gain weight. If you want to gain weight slowly, 250 calories above or 500 calories above your maintenance. And if you want to lose weight, do the exact same thing, but in a deficit. So you take 250 or take 500 calories away from your maintenance. And if you want to burn more or lose a little bit more, try and add a little bit more activity to to increase your deficit by burning rather than just not eating. Okay, and what I mean by that is if you hit 10,000 steps, that will burn a certain level of calories and increase your calorie deficit. If you do a little bit of cardio or endurance training or weight training, which I always recommend weight training above all else, because studies just show it has the best all-around results, both for muscle growth, strength, day-to-day activities, as well as heart health and endurance as well. So I always recommend strength training to everybody. But you can increase your calorie deficit by just trying to burn a little bit more. Now, you're not going to burn a ton. It's not like you're going to go burning 500-600 calories in exercise. It'll be a couple hundred calories, but that's all you really need to increase your deficit enough to see a little boost in results if you're trying to lose weight. If you're trying to gain weight, try to focus on strength training and hypertrophy training. Hypertrophy meaning muscle building, because muscle weighs more. If you're trying to build or gain weight, it's most likely because you want to build muscle. So keep that in mind as well. And so yeah, start with that. Start with that split. Well, I'll say it one more time. You want to go by doing 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight. Then for fats, you do your fat next, 30% of your caloric intake as healthy fats, and then the remainder as carbs. Now, the health and fitness industry has done an amazing job at demonizing something, and carbs is one of those things. There's always some sort of gimmick or don't do this, don't do that, don't eat this, don't eat. It's garbage, okay? Carbs are your friend. Okay, they won't make you gain weight. Yes, they hold a bit more water. Okay, carbs will hold a little bit more water weight for you, but water weight is good. You need water. You need to stay hydrated. Your muscles need water. In fact, I'm pretty sure the entirety of your body function needs water. Fats and carbs both will help you keep a good balance of hormones. So don't demonize carbs. Do not run away from them. Okay, and they're good for you, especially if you're getting them mostly from fruits and vegetables, because that will help you maintain your micronutrients and obviously vitamins and minerals through healthy carbs. And breads are not the end of the world. Okay, I'm trying to stay away from breaded products myself because they are pretty high in calories, and I would rather just have those calories and carbs saved up for something else throughout the day, like a little bit more fruits and vegetables. So that's why I'm trying to stay away from them. But take 2 years back, I was in amazing shape and I ate tortillas every day. So don't demonize that kind of stuff unless you have like a gluten intolerance or it makes you bloated. Listen to your body, but don't demonize it. If it's too much, if you're tracking it and it ends up taking too much, maybe stay away from them, because it might make it hard for you to hit your goals. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of that. For people just starting out, tracking your calories and macro count can be very, very overwhelming. And if that's the case, I would say focus on hitting your protein. If I were going to say pick one of anything, it's your protein. A couple reasons. Your protein will help maintain and or build muscle. Okay, that your body needs it. That's the building blocks for your muscle tissue is protein. Plus, it's extremely satiating. So that means satiating means it will help you feel a lot less hungry. So if you focused on hitting your protein in grams divided by however meals you're having in a day, you actually find that you feel less hungry by the end of that meal. So it will force you to actually eat less if you focus on eating the protein. And that, word of caution, that only comes into effect if you're getting your protein by via natural sources. So if you have to use protein shakes to hit your goal, by all means. I'm not going to demonize protein shakes. I use them. They're really good, but they are a highly processed food. It's a supplement. It's to supplement something else. Okay. It's not natural, and it's not nearly as satiating if you got it from like an animal source, like red or white meat, right? Or eggs. Eggs are my fave. Love myself some eggs. So keep that in mind. If you focus on hitting your protein via all natural food sources, it will actually naturally force you into some level of calorie deficit because you'll just feel so full. And it's hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's really hard to hit your protein intake in fully from natural foods. Okay, but it's the most important. So I would say do that over anything else. And for fats and carbs, especially, and again, this is beginner level, if you were like down below 15% body fat and you're trying to get to single digits, this may not come into effect because you have to be a little bit more picky. But if you're anywhere above 15, like if you're closer to 20% for men or 30% for women, because women need to have a higher body fat percentage for hormone balances and such. But I find that carbs and fats in my macro count are relatively interchangeable. So that means if you, by the end of the day, you find you've hit your protein and you've hit your calories, but your carbs are 10 over and your fats are 10 under, that's fine. You know, or if your carbs are 10 over and your fats are, I don't know, 15 under or something like that, that's fine. You know, there is some level of interchangeability between fats and carbs. In fact, I've seen several high performance like fitness models, bodybuilders that say they don't even track fats and carbs. They don't even care. What they track is their calories and their protein. Whatever else happens. They do not care. So calories and protein, focus on those the most, and just try to keep your fats and carbs well, like around where you want them to be. Of course, to get the best results, you want to try and keep everything where it is and adjust as you go based on your goals. Yeah, so I had like 10 other things I wanted to talk about for nutrition, but now I've rambled on for so long, I'm not sure where to go for now. But these are all really good topics to have or information to have for when you're getting started. Okay, keep all of this kind of stuff in mind. And don't let yourself get overwhelmed, okay? And don't be those people that say, "Oh, I'm gonna start from scratch, and I'm gonna get rid of all this junk food out of my house. I'm gonna throw it in the trash, and I'm gonna go 100% healthy starting right now," because there's a couple of problems with that. One, you've probably gone a long time having access to those treats. Okay, your brain is used to it, so you're gonna have cravings for it a lot. Okay, and number two, I don't recommend wasting food because it's super expensive, and not everybody, even here in Canada, can afford it. So don't waste food if you don't have to. I recommend keeping those little treats that your body and brain are used to having. So if you have cravings, you can have a nibble, but track it. Okay, and that's where things get a little dangerous, though. Okay, if you try to have a nibble and then it turns into a full binge, you've ruined. If you have three days like that in a week, you've ruined your whole week. Okay, so you got to be careful with it. You have to be disciplined enough to just take a nibble and be done with it. Okay, and again, I don't like wasting food. So don't. If you can do it, then by all means do it. I'm not telling you what to do, but I just don't like to waste food, even if it's a sweet treat or something like that. But you have to be disciplined to do it, because if you love Oreos, for example, and you are like, you keep the Oreos instead of throwing them away, and you have a craving. So you're like, I'm just going to satisfy my craving with an Oreo. And the next thing you know, you've eaten an entire row of Oreos out of the package. That's bad. Okay. Well, I mean, not very many people like this to use the word bad in the health and fitness industry these days, but it's definitely not good. Okay. Because now you've consumed a lot of calories in just Oreos and you've reduced your progress. Okay. Remember, the goal is to lose, if you had a 500 calorie deficit every single day, the goal is to lose 1 pound of body weight at the end of the, or gain, whatever your goal is. But let's, for argument's sake, say that you're trying to lose weight. So if you had a night where you binged a whole row of Oreos, now by the end of the week, chances are you're not going to be down a full pound, maybe half a pound or just over half a pound. And if you have a scale that doesn't read the decimal points, your body fat might not, or you're not your body fat, sorry, your body weight might have not moved at all because you had one night where you ate a bunch of Oreos. Okay. So keep that in mind. Try not to, and I'm not saying you can't have a bad day. Okay. You'll still see some progress if you have one bad day, but if you have 2-3 bad days in the week, you're not gonna see the progress that you want. Okay. It doesn't have to be difficult to hit your goals, but you do need to make changes. Okay. You're not going to keep your lifestyle the exact same way and then have different results. It doesn't work that way. So you need to make sure you got to keep your cravings and binge eating under control. Okay. And this, okay, here's a good topic. Here's a good point to make. This is why people tend to not make progress when it comes to the weekends, because they'll do really good all week. Monday to Friday, they hit their goals. But then, Friday night or Saturday, now they're going to go out and they're going to have some drinks and they're going out to a restaurant for food. And they're like, oh, I've been good all week. Why not treat myself? Well, next thing you know, by the end of Saturday night, you've treated yourself so well that you've consumed, 5,000 calories. And I know that, 5,000 calories is a lot. It's actually really easy to eat 5,000 calories if you're going out to restaurants and drinking alcohol. I think 1 16-ounce of alcohol is almost 300 calories, right? Just the alcohol. Just one 16-ounce beer. Okay, so if you go out for the weekend and you consume a bunch of beer, 6 of them, right? If you have 6 beers and it's 300 calories a beer, that's a lot of calories, right? Not to mention that things like alcohol actually have been proven to slow down your metabolism. So it's not just the calories going over, it's your body not burning through them as efficiently as your body should be. And it's just the way alcohol affects the human body, right? So people tend to do that. They have a really good week and then they spend all weekend, which is 2 out of 7 days, right? 2 out of 7 days. They don't track, and next thing you know, they've gone way over their calories. And then when they go to do their check-in, say Monday morning, they go, oh, I should have, my trainer said that I should have lost a pound, and I did good all week, but you didn't do good on the weekend, right? You spent 2 days going a couple, 1,000 calories over what you should be having. So that's why people tend to stay at a stalemate. The weekends count for a pretty good percentage of the week. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you're doing your nutrition. And the saying, you can't out-train a bad diet, is so true, because even if you're doing the weight training, sure, you can, if you didn't count your calories, you still ate a ton of food or whatever, and you worked out, you'd still get stronger. But if you ate a ton of calories, worked out, got stronger, you would still gain body fat because you're not burning the calories that you're consuming, right? It's just the way it is. And a lot of people tend to have those really good muscular bodies and then big bellies because of that fact, And I'm not saying that, people, if you're happy, awesome. But if that's not your goal, but you end up looking like that, it's probably because you're not really watching what you're eating. And another thing is you might not be recovering as well either. So it's not just when it comes to hitting your goals, it's not just about doing the exercise and eating great. It's about rest and recovery as well. Okay. In fact, I would say that the workout itself, the actual exercise, probably is your third most important thing to hitting your goals. It's not number one. It's not number two. I would say it's number three. Okay. Number one most important thing is hitting your high protein diet. Okay. Having a high protein diet and hitting it should be number one. Number two, which is right behind number one by a margin, they're like very close to the same, is rest and recovery. And here's something it's really important. A good healthy diet includes hydration, water, not energy drinks, not coffees, not juices, water. Okay? That is included in your diet. Keep that in mind. Number two is rest and recovery. Sleeping. Getting good sleep and stretching. Stretching helps in recovery. If you do a really good workout and like good weight training workout, try to end it with a good static stretch. And there's a whole topic that I can go in based on that, but essentially when you do a static stretch, it tends to force your muscles into a rest state, a rest and recovery state. It's almost like if you take a towel, get it full of water, and then you strain it out, and then next thing you know, the towel's like feeling a little loose and stretched out. That's the same concept with your muscles, because when you work out, oh, my light down below died, but we'll keep going. Sorry, light. It's the same idea with the muscles. You work out, your brain starts telling your body, hey, we need some oxygen and some blood flow to these muscles because they need it. Now you got some blood pooling in your muscles. When you're done your workout, that blood pooling it's still going to stay there for quite some time, and that will actually reduce or increase. That will actually can increase the amount of pain and fatigue that your muscles feel in the upcoming days. But if you do some nice, good static stretching, 15 to 30 seconds per stretch, that actually will squeeze the pooled up blood out of the muscle and help it flow out and prevent it from pooling. And that will help force your muscles into a nice rest and recovery state, which is one of the reasons why they say, they've discovered that doing static stretching before the workout can actually increase chance of injury, because they're not warmed up, and you've also just forced them into a more relaxed state rather than a pump up state. And that's why you want to use dynamic stretching first. Anyways, I digress. That has nothing to do with nutrition. There's nothing about nutrition with that. That's just part of my rant. Okay. So number one, hitting your high protein diet. Number two is rest and recovery, sleep, stretching, water intake. And then number three would be your workouts. Three most important things. 1, 2, 3. Okay. A lot of people think that the workout's the most important part. It is not. Okay, it is not the most important part, but it's pretty close. In fact, if you are relatively active throughout your day, like you're not sitting at a desk, your job is you're walking around, or you're a blue collar worker, if you didn't work out and you just changed what you eat and you focused on high protein diet, you would actually probably see really good results in losing weight. Probably really good. Because you're already active and your body's moving, and now you've started to give it the building blocks that it needs for what your day-to-day activity is. So for a lot of you probably don't even need to add a whole lot of weight training, especially you blue-collar workers, right? You guys, in fact, one study was made specifically because of blue-collar workers. Like, why are you so strong? How do they get so? You're not lifting super heavy weights consistently like you would at a gym, but they are lifting pretty moderate weight over time, and by the time that they're their shift has ended, they've actually moved a ton of weight, ton of it. So they actually did a full study showing that the overall load, the total amount of weight lifted for the day is actually a huge factor. It can make or break, right? That's why a lot of trainers say, don't just put as much weight as you can lift on there and lift. That actually is shown to reduce your progress. You should be able to move the amount of weight a certain amount of time, which is a good concept for, say, drop sets, right? You put a decent amount of weight, not enough that you can't push it up, right? You want to get enough weight on there that you can do 5-6 reps, and then you do 5 to 6 reps, and hopefully by 5 or 6 you're at failure. You drop some off, you do again till failure, you drop some off, and that actually, not only does it put extra stress on your muscles, but it actually increases the overall load that you've lifted for the day, right? And anyways, I digress. So the original point of that story is that focusing on just changing your diet, you'll still see results, even if you're not working out super hard. Even if you only need to work out 2 or 3 days a week, weight training, like resistance training, 2 to 3 days a week. And if you have the diet on point, you'll see amazing results. You don't need to be going 4, 5, 6 days a week. Just go 2 or 3 and watch what you're eating, hit your macros, hit your calories, and you're going to be golden. You're going to be off to the races. Feel better than you've ever felt before. But of course, this all takes time. And yeah, it all takes time, and you got to stick with it. Consistency is the most important thing. So I have digressed so much. This is why the first podcast ended up being over an hour long. And I think I'm probably about out of time for this. So I'm going to end it here. This is where I'm going to end it. And it's going to be, I think there's a lot of good information here for anybody that is just starting out. If you have any questions about nutrition, hit me up in the comments below, or there is a public Facebook group that I just started. Look in the description below. I'll add the link there. Join that group. Share your journey, ask questions, and let's all shape up and progress together. In the next episode, I'm not exactly 100% sure what I'm going to talk about. I may talk about actually maybe a little bit more about rest and recovery, but I may want to focus on how to build a good routine for your lifestyle. So stay tuned for that. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Give it a like, leave a comment below if you have any questions. Tell me if there's anything you think I should change about this podcast, and make sure you take advantage of all these services that I'm trying to build for you guys, and reach out to me if you have any questions. Share your journey with each other and motivate each other so that we can build that strong, supportive community that I talked about in episode 1. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.